Missouri voters will soon decide the future of the state's economy and its wage floor. The minimum wage up for a vote, also guaranteed paid sick leave. Joining us now is the campaign manager of Prop A, which basically is asking voters whether or not you want to raise the minimum wage in Missouri to $15 an hour over the next 2 years and guarantee paid sick leave, roughly a week to workers over the course of a year of paid sick leave. How many workers right now, Richard von Glahn.
Yeah.
Got to give a guy's name there.
Thanks.
How many workers do you think in the state of Missouri right now don't have that benefit of guaranteed sick leave?
Yeah, estimates are that as many as 1 in 3 Missouri workers don't have access to paid sick leave. They tend to be in frontline positions, construction workers, retail workers, childcare, nursing home workers, people that really drive our economy, and they often don't have access to paid sick leave.
A lot of the economists that look at tariffs and trade war and all these different things that are happening, it does shift the economy. During the pandemic, we saw this closer to a service industry economy where service workers, service unions are often taking on a larger share of the overall gross domestic product in this country.
Certainly, we have seen the critical role that a lot of those employees play in our economy. We've spent the last couple of years calling them essential. We think they are essential. We think their family members are essential too. And it's important that they have the same benefits that oftentimes executives and CEOs have.
Who would oppose an idea like this?
I don't really know who would actually oppose to this. You know, most businesses want to have a healthy workforce. Most customers want to know that when you show up to a place of business that the workforce is well taken care of and is healthy. So guaranteed paid time off is something that 19 states have already done. And we're looking forward to Missouri joining the list.
Illinois next door did this through the legislature. Was there an effort on that front?
There hasn't been a lot of effort with the legislature when we've filed bills to try to enact improvements of worker compensation and different pieces. The legislature doesn't usually schedule them for a hearing.
Why do you suspect that is?
I think members of the Missouri legislature have different priorities than improving working conditions for a majority of Missouri's workers.
We look at the campaign between now, there's just a handful of weeks, 4 or 5 weeks until voters actually decide all this. The minimum wage question, Missouri voters have kind of weighed in on this before. If voters should approve this, is there anything the legislature can do to trip up its implementation between now and when paychecks start getting bigger?
So it is a statutory proposal. If voters approve it in November, the first increase up to a $13.75 will take place on January 1st of 2025. That's before the legislature comes into session. Paid sick leave would be implemented subsequently on May 1st of 2025, and then the minimum wage would increase January 1, 2026. Mm-hmm. So the legislature would have time to meet and file bills, but we would expect that the legislature should uphold the will of Missouri voters.
How do you address this idea that if we raise the wage floor, that ultimately the businesses who pay those wages are going to have to make up that cost somewhere? And we've heard, for example, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, who's running for governor, say, well, that cost, or some of it, is going to be passed back on to the consumer, or might end up in businesses who just say, we can't afford to hire that next new recruit.
Yeah, so currently the minimum wage for Missouri workers, for someone working full-time, 40 hours a week, amounts to just $492 a week. That is not enough to survive on anywhere in the economy. And we know that really what drives economic growth in the state are workers. When workers are fairly compensated, we turn around and we spend that money right back in our economy. You know, we get the car repair that maybe we've been delaying, or maybe we can afford an extra meal out. So that's really what drives a consumer-driven economy, is having consumers that are able to spend. So Proposition A would inject over $609 million right back into workers' paychecks, who will turn around and spend that in our economy, driving economic growth. That's why we've seen over 475, particularly small businesses, endorse this initiative, because they know that more money in the economy means more consumers for them, more growth.
This question might sound kind of blunt, but if workers at the bottom of the pay scale are making more, is there someone making less, or is there a third option?
I think not necessarily. When we really think about what drives the economy and doing different pieces, when you have a more balanced economy, when workers at the low end are making more. And maybe it does mean a little bit less at the very high end. But what you see is that that can actually really drive growth and have more in there. There's only so many hamburgers or cups of coffee that one individual can consume. And so when you have more people able to do that, it really drives growth for the entire state.
In this period of hyperinflation that we've seen, I know it's cooling off, but goods have costed more. It's cost a lot more to borrow money over the last 4 years at different rates. But how has that inflation pressure coupled up with your cause?
I mean, it makes things even harder for people. When you're living check to check and, milk goes up or eggs go up, that makes it all the more critical to actually make sure that wages are going up along with that. Like I said, $492 a week for someone who is working full time. This isn't somebody working 20 hours a week. This is a full-time worker. The American dream is really that if you work hard, you deserve better than poverty. But right now, we have too many hardworking people who are not getting wages that allow them to sustain themselves and their family. You couple that with the fact that many of them, if they get sick or a family member is sick, have to face, taking a day off to heal means losing a paycheck that you desperately can't afford to lose.
Richard von Glahn, thanks for joining us and laying out your vision for the future. This ballot question, which voters will take on November 5th, Tuesday night, coming soon. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you.